The moment my girlfriend stepped outside to take the call, the room changed. Not loudly. Not in any way I could point to later if someone asked. It just thinned out. Like the air had been holding its breath and decided to let it go. That was the mistake. Hers, I guess. Or maybe mine, for noticing. We were at a small independent bookstore on 4th. One of those places that smells like paper and dust, and something almost sweet underneath. My girlfriend loved it because it felt authentic. I liked it because it was quiet enough that no one expected you to perform. We'd wandered in to kill time before dinner. That's when I noticed her behind the counter. She wasn't trying to be noticed. That was the first thing. No bright smile, no chirpy greeting. Just a woman in a soft gray sweater, sleeves pushed to her elbows, reading glasses perched low on her nose like they belonged there. Mid-40s, maybe older. Calm in a way that felt earned, not practiced. When she looked up, it wasn't rushed. It was as if she decided I was worth the interruption. "Let me know if you're looking for anything," she said. "Not can I help you? Not welcome in. Just that." My girlfriend squeezed my hand, already halfway toward the travel section. Then her phone buzzed. She checked it, frowned, and mouthed work. "I'll be right outside," she said, already stepping away. The door chimed softly behind her. I was left at the counter with the woman and the sound of pages turning somewhere in the back. She slid a bookmark between the pages of her book and took off her glasses. Her eyes were sharp, but not in a challenging way. More like she saw things and didn't rush to explain them. "She always takes calls outside," I said. I don't know why. The sentence just fell out of me, like it needed a place to land. The woman's mouth curved, not quite a smile. "That's considerate." "Or trained," I said, then immediately felt stupid. She tilted her head, studying me for a beat too long. I shifted my weight, suddenly aware of my hands, the way I was standing too close to the counter. "Sometimes," she said slowly, "people learn habits without remembering why." I nodded like that made sense. Maybe it did. The silence settled again, heavier this time. Not awkward exactly, just charged. Like a pause in music where you're not sure if it's over or about to start again. I picked up a paperback from the counter. Essays. I flipped it open without reading. "Do you work here long?" "Long enough to stop counting," she said. "Long enough to know which books people pretend to like." That got a laugh out of me. Too loud. I tried to soften it with a shrug. "Which ones?" She leaned forward, resting her forearms on the counter. The sweater bunched slightly at her elbows. I noticed a thin silver bracelet on her wrist, worn smooth. The ones that make them feel impressive instead of honest. I didn't answer right away. My throat felt dry. She watched me. Not my face exactly, but the space just beside it, like she was giving me room to decide who I was going to be. Then she reached out and tapped the book I was holding. Our fingers brushed. It was nothing, barely contact, but it landed like something deliberate. "That one," she said gently, "you might actually like." The door chimed again. My girlfriend's voice floated in, mid-sentence, cheerful and unaware. The woman straightened, stepping back, already reaching for her glasses. But the warmth from that brief touch stayed. It followed me as we left. It followed me to dinner. It followed me home. And later that night, lying awake beside someone else, it was still there. The pause, the look, the way she'd said you might actually like. I told myself I didn't plan to go back. But 2 days later, I found myself pushing open the same glass door, the bell chiming like it remembered me. It was mid-afternoon this time. Slower. The light outside had that dull, overcast look that makes everything feel unfinished. She was kneeling on the floor near the history section, stacking books into a box. Her hair was pulled back loosely, a few strands already slipping free. No glasses today. Just that same gray sweater, softer up close, sleeves stretched thin at the elbows. She looked up when she heard me. There was a flicker of recognition, quick, almost hidden, before her face settled back into something neutral. "Back again," she said. "Yeah." I held up a small slip of paper. "You were right about the book." She took it, glanced at the title, then at me. This time, she smiled. Really smiled. It didn't last long, but it changed the room while it was there. "I'm glad," she said. "Not everyone comes back." "I had time," I said. That wasn't exactly true. She stood, brushing dust from her knees. When she straightened, I noticed how carefully she did it, like her body had learned to be cautious. She moved with confidence, but it was the kind that came from knowing your limits, not pretending you didn't have any. "I'm reorganizing," she said, nodding toward the boxes. "Shipment came early." I hesitated. Do you need help? The pause that followed was small, but I felt it. Her eyes dropped to my hands, then back to my face. If you don't mind, she said. The latter's a bit temperamental. That was how I ended up holding a stack of hardcovers while she climbed, one careful step at a time. I stood close without meaning to, steadying the ladder with one hand. Her shoes were scuffed. Sensible. The kind of detail I wouldn't normally notice, except now I noticed everything. She reached for the top shelf, fingers stretching, then stopped. Her hand hovered there, trembling just slightly. You okay? I asked. She exhaled, a quiet sound. Just 1 second. She closed her eyes. Not dramatically, just enough to gather herself. When she opened them again, there was something tired there. Not exhaustion exactly, more like wear. Didn't sleep. I asked before I could stop myself. She laughed softly. It surprised both of us. Is it that obvious? A little, I said, but in a human way. She shook her head, smiling again, then took the book from my hands. Our fingers touched longer this time. Neither of us pulled away right away. People think working in a bookstore is quiet, she said, placing the book. It is. But quiet can be loud if you're already full. Full of what? I asked. She climbed down slowly, one step at a time, until we were standing too close. Close enough that I could smell coffee on her breath. Cold coffee. Of things you didn't say when you should have, she said. Then, like she'd gone too far, she stepped back, clearing her throat. Thank you for the help. My girlfriend texted then. Where are you? I didn't answer right away. Instead, I watched the woman pick up her glasses, hesitate, then set them down again, as if seeing clearly wasn't what she wanted just then. It started raining while we were closing. Not the dramatic kind. No thunder, no sudden downpour. Just a steady, patient rain that turned the windows into blurred mirrors. I hadn't planned to stay that late. I told myself I was just browsing, then helping, then waiting while she finished the register because it felt rude to leave in the middle of a conversation that never quite started. She locked the door and flipped the sign to closed. The click echoed louder than it should have. You don't have to wait, she said, though she didn't look at me when she said it. It's raining, I answered. Also not the truth. Or not all of it. She sighed quietly, set her bag down behind the counter. The lights stayed dim, just enough to keep the place from feeling empty. Books cast long shadows. The air smelled like paper and something faintly metallic from the rain. She poured herself coffee from a mug that had gone untouched for hours. Didn't offer me any. I didn't ask. You're here a lot, she said finally. I leaned against the counter, careful not to cross some invisible line. I like how it feels here. That's dangerous, she said, almost to herself. The silence stretched. Not uncomfortable, just loaded. She rubbed at her wrist where the silver bracelet sat, over and over, like she was trying to warm the skin beneath it. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and froze. The warmth in her face drained, replaced by something guarded, almost sharp. She didn't answer, just turned the phone face down on the counter. Everything okay? I asked. She hesitated, long enough that I thought she'd deflect, make a joke. Instead, she said, someone who doesn't know when to stop checking in. I get that, I said. I thought of my girlfriend, of unread messages, of how easy it was to delay a response when you didn't want to feel pulled. She looked at me then, really looked. Her eyes softened, but there was fear there too, fear of being understood too quickly. You're young, she said, not dismissive, almost apologetic. I know, I said. I don't feel it when I'm here. That landed heavier than I expected. She inhaled slowly, then walked past me toward the window. I followed, stopping just short of standing beside her. We watched the rain slide down the glass in uneven lines. I don't usually talk like this, she said. I don't usually listen this closely, I replied. She laughed under her breath. Tired. Real. That's the problem. Her phone buzzed again. This time she picked it up, thumb hovering over the screen. She didn't answer, just let it buzz itself into silence. I should go, she said, but she didn't move. Neither did I. We stood there, close enough that I could feel the heat from her arm, the subtle shift of her weight when she turned slightly toward me. Her hand lifted, paused, like she meant to fix something that didn't need fixing. A crease in my sleeve. A thought she couldn't put back. I didn't reach for her. I stayed still, heart loud, hands clenched loosely at my sides. Her fingers brushed my wrist by accident, or not. She looked down at the contact, then up at my face. For a moment, Everything leaned forward. Then the phone buzzed again, sharp and insistent. And her hand fell away. By the third time I came in that week, neither of us pretended it was accidental. She didn't say back again, didn't comment on the weather or ask about the book I was holding. She just nodded once, like she'd been expecting me, and went back to wiping the counter already clean. I hovered near the shelves, pretending to read spines I'd memorized. The quiet felt heavier than before. Not tense, honest, like something that had finally decided to stop hiding. After a while, she spoke. "We can't keep doing this." I looked up. Doing what? She set the cloth down carefully. Too carefully. Standing near each other and calling it nothing. That landed hard. I stepped closer, slow enough to give her time to change her mind. She didn't move. She didn't look at me either. "I don't know what it is," I said, "but it doesn't feel like nothing." She closed her eyes for a second. When she opened them, they were glossy, not crying, just full, like she was holding too much behind them. "That's the problem," she said quietly. "It should be nothing, and it isn't." The space between us felt suddenly deliberate. Chosen. "I'm not trying to cross a line," I said. "I don't even know where it is." She let out a breath that sounded almost like a laugh. "I know exactly where it is. I've just been standing too close to it." We stood there, facing each other, the bookstore dim and still around us. No music, no distractions, just the hum of the lights and the sound of someone walking past outside. "You have a girlfriend," she said. I nodded. "Yes." "You're young," she added, softer this time. Not as a warning, as a fact that hurt to say out loud. "I know." She washed my face like she was looking for something. An escape, maybe, or permission. Her hand lifted, then dropped to her side again. "This isn't about attraction," she said. "It's about timing. And choices. And all the ways you can wake up one day and realize you've been careful for so long that you forgot what reckless felt like." I swallowed. My throat was tight. "Then why does it feel like I'm the one about to ruin something?" Her lips pressed together. She turned away, resting her palms on the counter, shoulders stiff. "Because you still think ruining something is loud," she said. "It usually isn't. It's quiet. It's just not stopping soon enough." The words hung there. Heavy. Final. I took one more step forward. Not touching. Just close enough that she had to know I was there. "If I leave," I said, "does this go away?" She didn't answer right away. When she did, her voice barely carried. "No," she said, "but it becomes mine alone." That was when I understood. Not what I wanted. Not what she felt. Just what it would cost her to stay silent, and what it would cost me to keep listening. The shift didn't announce itself. It never does. It came on a Tuesday, late afternoon, when the store was empty except for us and the hum of the old heater clicking on and off like it couldn't decide what season it was. She asked me to help move a box from the back room. Nothing unusual. We'd done that before. But this time, when I followed her through the narrow hallway, she didn't turn the light on right away. Just stood there in the dim, one hand on the wall, the other still holding the door. "There's something I should tell you," she said. "Now we need to talk. Not this is complicated. Just that." I waited. I'd learned not to rush her. The silence between us had started to feel like a language. She reached into the box and pulled out a small framed photo. The glass was cracked at one corner, taped carefully from the back. She held it like it weighed more than it should have. "That's not for sale," she said, though I hadn't asked. I stepped closer. In the photo, she was younger, still her, unmistakably, but softer somehow. Beside her stood a man about my age. Same messy hair. Same crooked half-smile. His arm was slung around her shoulders like he belonged there. "He died," she said. No warning. No cushioning. I felt something shift in my chest. "I'm sorry." She nodded, like she'd heard that word enough times for it to lose its shape. "Car accident. Years ago." She paused. "He was supposed to leave early that night. Didn't." I didn't say anything. I didn't trust myself to. "You don't look like him," she went on. "Not really. But sometimes the way you stand there, like you're waiting for someone to decide something, you remind me of who I was back then." She set the photo down on the box between us. Her fingers lingered on the frame, tracing the crack. "I didn't date for a long time after," she said. "People assume it was grief. But it wasn't that simple." She glanced at me. It was guilt. I survived the version of myself that wanted more. I swallowed. "Is that why you keep distance so carefully?" She smiled at that. Small. Sad. I learned what it costs when you don't. The heater clicked on again, louder than before. I realized my hands were clenched into fists at my sides. I don't want to be that, I said quietly. A reminder. She shook her head. You're not. You're worse. I laughed once, startled. Worse. You're current, she said. You exist now. That landed harder than anything else she'd said. She picked the photo up again, hesitated, then did something unexpected. She handed it to me. Hold it, she said. I did. The glass was cold. The crack caught slightly under my thumb. Do you know what the worst part was? She asked. I waited. Everyone told me I'd love again, she said. No one told me I might recognize it and still walk away. She took the frame back gently, like she was afraid of cutting me on the past. Then she reached out, not to touch me, but to straighten the collar of my jacket. A small, unnecessary gesture. Her fingers hovered, brushed fabric, then retreated. I don't miss him, she said softly. I miss who I was before I learned how to stop myself. We stood there, closer than before, the photo between us like a third presence. And for the first time, I understood the danger wasn't wanting her. It was wanting to give her something she'd already buried once. The truth didn't arrive all at once. It settled. It happened after closing, again, but this time there was no rain, no phone buzzing, no excuse to lean on. Just the two of us sitting on the floor between the shelves, backs against opposite sides, knees almost touching without either of us acknowledging it. She took off her shoes. That's how tired she was. I ended things, she said. The words weren't dramatic. No pause before or after, just placed there, like a fact she'd decided to stop carrying alone. With him? I asked. She nodded. Last night. It wasn't fair anymore. Not to either of us. I thought of my girlfriend. The way I'd been answering slower. The way my body had already started telling the truth before my mouth caught up. I haven't yet, I said. I know, she replied. No judgment. Just knowing. We sat there, the store dark except for the streetlight bleeding in through the window. Dust floated in the air, slow and visible, like time had loosened its grip. I don't want this to be an escape, she said. Or a rebellion. Or a mistake we dress up as meaning. I don't either, I said. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. I just don't want to keep pretending it isn't happening. She turned her head slightly, resting it back against the shelf. It's already happened, she said. That's the part people don't talk about. By the time you admit it, you're usually late. I shifted, careful, and our knees touched. This time neither of us moved away. I'm scared, I admitted. Not of you. Of how clear this feels. Her breath caught. Not a sob, not even close. Just a break in rhythm. She reached down and traced a line in the dust with her finger, slow and deliberate. Clarity is expensive, she said. It asks you to give up the version of yourself that was still deciding. I thought of the photo, of the cracked glass, of how carefully she'd learned to stop. I'm willing, I said. Not bravely. Honestly. She looked at me then. Not searching, measuring, deciding. I don't need you to promise anything, she said. I need you to stay when it's quiet, when it stops feeling urgent. I can do quiet, I said. She considered that. Then, without looking at me, she reached for my hand. It wasn't sudden. It wasn't hungry. Her fingers slid into mine like they'd already learned the shape. Warm. Certain. She squeezed once, not to ask, just to confirm. I leaned my forehead against the shelf behind me, eyes closed. She did the same. We sat like that, connected by our hands, breathing in sync without trying to. No kiss. No words. Just the sound of two people finally choosing not to step back. When we stood to leave, she didn't let go right away. And for the first time, the quiet didn't feel like restraint. It felt like arrival. I'm telling this from a distance now, not far enough that it feels finished, but far enough that I can see the shape of it. People ask how it ended. They want clean lines. Labels. I never know how to answer without disappointing them. Because the truth is, nothing exploded. Nothing collapsed dramatically. No one ran. No one was rescued. What happened was quieter than that. I left my girlfriend a week later. Not because of a speech I practiced or a fight that pushed me over the edge. I just stopped lying with my timing. I told the truth without decorating it. It hurt her. I won't pretend it didn't. That's something I still carry. But it was a different kind of hurt than staying would have been. As for her, she didn't suddenly become fearless. She didn't reverse time or erase what she'd learned the hard way. She stayed careful, just no longer absent. She still pauses before speaking, still watches doors close a second longer than necessary. But she laughs more easily now. Not louder, easier. Like laughter isn't something she has to earn first. We didn't rush into a story we could brag about. We didn't pretend love fixes timing or makes age irrelevant or smooths out consequence. What we did was sit together a lot. On the floor, on opposite ends of the couch, at the small table in the back of the bookstore after closing, drinking coffee we forgot about until it went cold. I learned that love isn't always fireworks. Sometimes it's the moment you stop performing and realize no one's asking you to. It's staying when there's nothing to react to. It's choosing honesty even when it doesn't make you look good. She taught me that restraint can be a form of devotion, and that letting go of it, even slightly, can feel like learning to walk again after a long winter. The thing that surprised me most was how little we talk about beginnings. Everyone wants the first kiss, the big realization, the dramatic crossing of the line. But what stays with me is smaller. The way her hand finds mine without looking. The way silence stopped feeling like a test. The way we both learned that wanting something doesn't make you weak, avoiding it does. Sometimes I still think about that first day. My girlfriend stepping outside. The air shifting. The mistake no one knew was a mistake yet. Not because I want to rewrite it, but because it reminds me how easily life changes when you're paying attention. Not every connection is meant to last forever, but some are meant to wake you up. And if this story made you feel something, even a quiet something, I'd like to know. Let me know in the comments. Would you want more stories like this?